We paid you $4,800, and you left our house in ruins. The wife shouts, clutching crumpled receipts in her hands. On the table lie scattered bills and photos, bare walls, exposed wires, half-finished rooms that were meant to become their dream home. The husband, furious, throws the contract folder to the floor. The words strike like both accusation and verdict. The tension is unbearable. Who is to blame? The contractors who took the money and vanished? Or the homeowners who trusted strangers with their savings? And above all, will this family find justice? They had been waiting for this renovation for years. Every dinner conversation seemed to end with the same words. When will we finally fix the kitchen? Their dream was simple. New tiles, modern furniture, smooth walls without cracks. It seemed that all they needed was a reliable crew, and life would finally feel brighter. The search took weeks, through friends, ads, and online forums. At last, they settled on a recommended team, a few men with confident manners who promised to finish the work quickly, professionally, and without hassle. The contract was signed for $4,800, a huge sum for the couple, but they convinced themselves it was worth the risk. After all, this was about their home. At first, everything looked promising. Tools clattered, doors opened and closed constantly as debris was carried out and bags of cement brought in. The homeowners even felt a sense of pride. Finally, we made the right choice. But the joy didn't last long. After a week, the workers slowed down. One day brought only half an hour of noise. The next, complete silence. Calls went unanswered. When the crew did appear, it was only to demand more money. Prices for materials went up. We need another $500. Otherwise, we can't continue. Fearful of losing the money already invested, the couple agreed. They even bought some of the materials themselves. But the work never moved forward. Tiles sat untouched in the corner, wires hung exposed, and chaos filled the rooms. The tension grew unbearable. The husband went through the receipts, calculating. Most of the money was gone, yet only bare walls remained. The wife couldn't hold back tears. They had dreamed of comfort, but instead they were left with ruins. This wasn't renovation. It was a brazen fraud. And only one question remained. Could they force these builders to face justice for the scam? The couple's frustration was boiling over. Nearly a month had passed, yet their apartment still looked like a war zone. The walls were half-plastered, streaked with uneven marks. Electrical wires dangled dangerously from the ceiling. Piles of rubble cluttered the hallway. Every time they stepped inside, it felt less like a home and more like the scene of abandonment. And this after $4,800 had already disappeared into the pockets of the so-called professionals. One evening, the husband picked up the phone, his voice trembling with suppressed fury. We agreed the kitchen would be finished by now. Where's the result? The foreman's tone was flat, almost bored. We've already spent the money on materials. If you want us to keep working, we'll need another $2,000. The husband nearly dropped the phone. Spent on materials? Look at these invoices, these delivery notes. Most of the materials we bought ourselves. What did you do with the money? There was a long pause on the other end. Finally, the foreman muttered, "Think it over. If you don't pay, we won't continue. That's all." The line went dead. The next morning, the apartment was silent. No footsteps, no hammering, no sound of work. The workers had vanished. Their phones went unanswered. Text messages were left on read and ignored. The wife stood in the middle of the living room, staring at unopened boxes of tiles. Tears welled in her eyes. She had imagined this space transformed, bright, clean, ready to welcome guests. Instead, it was a dusty shell of broken promises. Then came a revelation that turned despair into rage. Their downstairs neighbor knocked on the door, speaking in hushed tones. "I saw your workers at the flea market," she whispered. "They were selling cement and wood. They said it was leftover from a job. I think it was yours." The husband's face darkened. That night he scoured the internet, searching for information on the crew. What he found was damning, a trail of angry reviews. "They took our money and disappeared," wrote one. "Half the work undone, demanded more cash," wrote another. He printed out screenshots, each one a nail in the coffin of their supposed reputation. Determined, the couple went to confront the company again. The office was a shabby room with peeling paint and a single desk. Behind it sat the foreman, scrolling lazily on his phone. He barely glanced up. The husband slammed the contract down. You took our money. Where's the renovation? The foreman shrugged, his expression smug. We've done the necessary work. You're just too picky. The wife snapped, her voice breaking with rage. You lied to us. You lie to everyone. We demand our $4,800 back. But the man only leaned back in his chair. If you're not satisfied, sue us. It was the last straw. The couple stormed out, their decision made. Back at home, the atmosphere was unbearable. Dinner was eaten at a wobbly table in a half-finished kitchen. They sat on boxes instead of chairs. Every corner of the apartment whispered betrayal. Their friends tried to comfort them, but the warnings came too. It's not easy to prove unfinished work. They'll come with forged papers. The couple refused to back down. They gathered everything: receipts, invoices, photographs of every corner of their apartment. They asked neighbors to testify. One agreed to say he saw the workers carrying materials to a truck. Another promised to confirm that no one had worked for weeks. Still, fear gnawed at them. The wife woke in the night, her heart pounding. What if the court believes them? What if they get away with it? The husband lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling. He reached for her hand, his own trembling. We'll bring the truth out. We can't let them steal from us and walk away. Not again. Each passing day brought them closer to the courtroom. Each tick of the clock tightened the knot in their stomachs. They knew this wasn't just about $4,800 anymore. It was about dignity. It was about showing that lies, theft, and betrayal could not simply be swept under the rug. The evidence was on their side. The truth was in their hands. But the battle, messy, public, and unforgiving, was only beginning. The courtroom was packed. Some had come out of curiosity, others to support the homeowners. Whispers filled the air until the judge entered, and then the silence became heavy, suffocating. At the defense table sat the contractors, unusually calm, almost smug. Their lawyer rose with practiced confidence and placed a stack of papers on the desk. Your Honor, my clients fulfilled their obligations. Here is the official completion report, signed and dated. The file was passed to the judge. Neatly typed lines claimed that the renovation was fully finished, the kitchen ready for use, the bathroom up to standard, the living room completed. The judge's brow furrowed. A completion report? Yet the plaintiffs claimed the work was abandoned. Let us see the evidence. The homeowners stood. Their hands trembled as they handed over photographs. The images appeared on the screen for all to see. Bare walls scarred with plaster, wires dangling loose, a kitchen reduced to rubble. The contrast between the polished report and harsh reality was staggering. The wife wiped away tears, while the husband's voice rang out, sharp with emotion. This is what they left us with. We paid $4,800, and they walked away. That so-called report is a forgery. A murmur rippled through the audience. The contractors shifted uneasily. The judge leaned forward, examining the photographs. His expression grew sterner with each image. If this is considered completed work, it appears anything but complete. Next, the construction expert took the stand. A seasoned professional, she placed her folder down and adjusted her glasses. Her voice was steady, firm. Based on inspection and photographic evidence, only about 40% of the work was performed. The rest remains unfinished. Electrical systems are unsafe, surfaces are incomplete, no fixtures were installed. These conditions are not habitable. Her words landed like a hammer blow. The foreman shook his head, muttering to his lawyer, but the damage was clear. The homeowners then presented receipts, stacks of them. Proof of every payment, every delivery of materials they had purchased themselves. We paid for labor, for tiles, for fixtures, but we bought most of it on our own. These papers prove the truth. Our money was taken, and the work abandoned. A neighbor testified next, an older man speaking with calm certainty. I live next door. For weeks, no one worked there. I saw the crew loading cement and wood into a truck. They didn't bring it in, they hauled it away. Gasps filled the courtroom. The defense objected, but the testimony stood. Another neighbor confirmed. The apartment had been untouched for weeks. The atmosphere was charged, electric. No one whispered now. All eyes were fixed on the judge, who sat in silence. The evidence spread before him. The forged report, the damning photos, the expert analysis, the neighbor's testimony. The wife sobbed quietly, clutching the contract. The husband rested a hand on her shoulder, his gaze never leaving the bench. The judge remained still, reviewing everything. The ticking of the clock echoed through the silent room. The contractor's lies unraveled before everyone's eyes, thread by thread. And the whole courtroom waited for the gavel to fall. The judge sat in silence for a long moment, reviewing the papers spread before him. The forged completion report, the photographs of bare walls, the receipts, the testimony of neighbors, it all lay in front of him like pieces of a puzzle that could no longer be denied. The room was so quiet that the ticking of the clock seemed deafening. Finally, he lifted his gaze. His voice was steady, firm, and cold. This court orders the defendants to return $4,800 to the plaintiffs and to cover all additional expenses caused by their negligence. The words echoed through the courtroom like the strike of a gavel. A wave of whispers rippled across the audience. Some nodded in agreement, others exchanged glances, but everyone knew what had just happened. Truth had prevailed. The wife broke down in tears, the weight of weeks of fear and frustration spilling out at once. Her husband placed an arm around her shoulders, his jaw trembling as he tried to hold back his own emotions. For the first time since the ordeal began, there was something in their eyes that looked like relief. They hadn't just fought for money. They had fought for justice, and won. As they left the courtroom, the couple carried a single photograph, their unfinished kitchen. The image showed nothing but exposed wires, unpainted walls, and a heap of dust. Yet now, that photograph meant more than just a reminder of betrayal. It had become a symbol of victory, proof that lies could be confronted and that the truth could still matter. Money would never return the lost weeks, nor erase the sleepless nights, the shouting, the despair. But the ruling gave them something more powerful than compensation. It gave them back their dignity. And now the question remains for anyone who hears their story. Would you trust your hard-earned money to these builders?